Hey everybody, ABC 10 meteorologist Brendan Menchef here, and it's no secret it's been a hot weekend so far. That's going to continue today, and we'll have some relief by the time we get to the middle part of this coming week, but it is only temporary. Yesterday, so this was Saturday, July 15th, 108 degrees in downtown Sacramento, 105 degrees Sacramento Executive Airport, 107 degrees in Stockton, and 102 in Modesto. Those were the highs yesterday in downtown Sacramento. That was good enough for the second, well, technically third, hottest day we've had so far this year, behind only July 1st and July 2nd, the start of the month, when we made it to 109 degrees. Now, the top 5 hottest temperatures we've had so far this year are all triple digits. We've been 109 twice, 108, 105 on June 30th, 104 on July 14th, and 100 degrees on July 13th. So you can see that July has come in and been pretty hot, in fact. And we can see that when we look at the calendar, too. The two hottest days, again, first and the second of the month. And then we had a stretch here where we're below average in the 80s and even one day in the 70s, which was a rarity for the month of July in downtown Sacramento. But really, that feels, even though it was just 1 week ago, it feels much longer than that because the week what we just had was pretty warm. We had some seasonable heat to start. We were right near average in those mid to upper 90s, and then we entered those triple digits, 108 degrees yesterday, and today we're going to be right back there yet again. Current temperatures as of about 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, 76 in Sacramento, 79 Stockton, 79 in Modesto. But look at this, 86 in Auburn, 86 in Placerville, 85 in Jackson. This is important because the temperatures that we're seeing this morning are right now about 5 degrees warmer in the foothills than what we had 24 hours ago. That, again, is important because that's going to carry over into the afternoon. And so those afternoon high temperatures, because they don't have, because they are starting at a higher place than they were yesterday, they don't have to work as hard to get as high. So we are going to be, again, about 2 to 5 degrees warmer across the foothills than where we were yesterday. And we see that here when we look at that high temperature map, about 103 in Placerville, 105 in Auburn, about 101 in Nevada City, 107 in Jackson today, 109 in Angels Camp yesterday. Highs were in those upper 90s for many of these locations. 107 in Sacramento today, that's the forecast. 107 Elk Grove, 108 in Stockton, 109 in Modesto, 110 in Marysville, 110 in Oroville today. So as hot or hotter, that's kind of the headline here in terms of what we can expect across Northern California. It is a warm start to the day. That's what we had. It'll be 105 to 110 across the valley, as we just saw. And really, it's well and truly summertime at this point in Northern California, as we are going to have an extended period here with temperatures in those upper 90s and low hundreds. Here's where we are right now with that high pressure sitting right over the west coast. This is starting to scoot off to the east, but very slowly. Right now, we're seeing some clouds moving across Northern California, but it is just some, and I really don't expect it to moderate our afternoon temperatures all that much. We're going to be, like I said, right back where we were yesterday, about 107 degrees. This time we'll get there about 4 or 5 o'clock instead of 5, 6 o'clock. So we will see a little bit of cooling a little bit earlier, and that will help us out, but not much in the way of a delta breeze. And so that means we are still going to be hot as we work through the afternoon and evening hours. 98 or so in Pollock Pines today, about 106 in Auburn, close to 107 in Placerville, about 100 in Arnold, 108 in Jackson, 111 in Ione. That's the forecast right now. 90 in San Jose today, 77 in Oakland, 68 in San Francisco is not too bad at all, 71 in Santa Cruz. If you want to escape the heat, the Sierra is not the place to go. The coast is the place to go, because really only right along the immediate Pacific coast is where you're going to see that relief from the heat. As soon as you start to work inland, you're going to feel that heat. Again, 90 in San Jose, 90 in Gilroy. Really, as soon as you get up and over the mountains, or get above that marine layer, that's as soon as you're going to start to feel that heat. That high pressure squashes the marine layer, and it's only a few hundred feet as of Sunday morning. 107 in Sacramento today, about 108 in El Dorado Hills, 108 in Stockton, 109 Modesto and Manteca, 109 in Turlock, 109 in Patterson, about 110 in Woodland. And as we zoom into the metro area, again, about 110 Woodland, about 108 Rio Linda, 108 in Natomas, 107 Sacramento, 109 in Gold River, 109 in Folsom, 108 Granite Bay, 109 in Rockland and Roseville as well. Lincoln about 109, Auburn, there you see about 106. Rancho Murrieta, about 110 degrees. That is the forecast so far. The average high for today, the average high is 95, but the record high 108 degrees. You see that up there. 1935 is when we set that downtown Sacramento. That's definitely in play today. We're only there by a degree or two. The record high yesterday was 109, so we didn't get there. But again, it's close. We're going to be right there. Some communities are going to be setting record highs. Others are going to be pushing it. But again, it's very hot whether we break the record or not. 107, 108 really feels the same. We see that major heat risk in the red color across much of Northern California. This level of heat will affect anyone without effective cooling, and that is not staying hydrated. You got to drink lots of water before, during, and after spending time in the heat. If you're thirsty, you're already starting to fall behind and getting a little dehydrated. So make sure you're staying hydrated throughout the daytime today. We also see pockets of purple across the foothills. That's that long duration heat, the extreme level of heat risk. This will affect anyone and everyone really that does not have that AC, does not have time to spend in the AC, and that is not drinking water. You got to stay hydrated. This is a long duration heat event when you're in that extreme category with little to no overnight relief, and that is exactly what we have seen today and what will continue in towards tomorrow as well. We're starting off in the 80s in those foothill communities. We're going to be in those low triple digits. That is extreme heat for sure by their standards. So as we look at Futurecast, one of the things that we didn't have yesterday, this is kind of the only difference, is some cloud cover. Now, I don't really see this moderating our temperatures all that much. If it comes in maybe a little denser than expected, maybe we see highs topping out around 104, 105 in and around Sacramento. But for the most part, I really do think we're going to be back towards 107 today. Although the clouds will build in a little heavier overnight tonight, that actually will not help us. Clouds act as a blanket, helping to keep that heat in towards the ground instead of letting it radiate off into space. And so that means we're in for yet another warm overnight. And combine that with little to no delta influence. You see delta breeze here, maybe for a little bit around 10 miles per hour, but for the most part, very similar to yesterday, really not going to see any impact. So it is going to be a warm afternoon, warm evening, and warm overnight as well. Here's what this evening looks like: about 103 at 6 p.m., still in the 90s by 8 p.m. tonight, about 91 degrees, and then by 10 o'clock, we get towards about 82. That excessive heat warning continues until 11 p.m. So again, you combine all of these factors: cloud cover, hot afternoon, no delta breeze. That's going to set us up for a warm start to Monday as well. About 72 for a low. The low temperature in Sacramento on Monday morning, about 74 in Roseville, 80 in Placerville, 77 in Auburn, 80 in Nevada City. Very similar to what we saw for Sunday morning. This will continue in towards Monday morning. And again, that has a lot to do with the cloud cover and the lack of a delta breeze as well. Here's the weather pattern: high pressure sitting overhead, but it is starting to scoot off to the east. As we go Monday into Tuesday, that high pressure actually is to our east and will allow us to cool back down towards seasonable, which is about 95 degrees for this time of year. But the low pressures stay to our north, and by the time we get to the end of this week, high pressure builds right back in. This time, really the difference is that it's going to be sitting over the mountain west instead of right over California. This would help our highs climb back into the triple digits, but not as high as what we have seen this weekend. So I'm thinking closer to about 103 degrees by the end of this week and next weekend, based on the current data, based on the current positioning. Of course, that can change. But the other thing that's important to note here is the position of the high pressure. It's close enough to California that it's going to be a southwesterly flow, and that is going to steer most of that monsoon moisture just far enough away that we're not really going to see it. Now, that could change again if this high pressure changes position a little bit, which is plenty of time for it to do. That's what the current forecast is right now. Now, I ran the numbers, and it's fair to say we are not acclimated to the heat. We all know it's been a mild year. It's been a wet year. It's even been a cool start to summer. May and June were actually pretty cool, but July has been anything but. So the average high temperature from July 1st through 15th so far has been 95.5 degrees. That's obviously been helped by all the triple-digit days we saw and the 109s that we had to start the month. So the first half of July so far, our average high temperature has been 95.5. The entire month of June, our average high temperature was 85.8 degrees. So we are experiencing heat on average that is 10 degrees above what we saw all of last month. Of course, you have those days that are much cooler and those days that are much warmer. But this is just an idea to give you that, look, last month was running on average about 10 degrees cooler than this month has so far. So yeah, July has been hot. The normal to date for the month of July, 94 degrees. The June normal is 89 degrees. So June was about 4 to 5 degrees cooler than average. July so far is about 1.5 degrees warmer than average. But when you compare the two from June to July, it is obviously much warmer, and we can feel it this month. Some heat safety tips: sunscreen. American Cancer Society recommends an SPF of at least 30 with any sunscreen you wear. Also, just put on a wide-brimmed hat. It'll help protect your face and ears from burning, but you should still put sunscreen on your face and ears, even if you are wearing a hat. Take lots of breaks in the shade. The risk for heat injury, as we talked about with that heat risk, major to extreme, it's high in these temperatures. The CDC recommends spending about 35 minutes in the sun, max, and then taking a 25-minute break in the AC. Stay hydrated as well. Important to avoid those energy drinks and alcohol. Those will really, really help to dehydrate you. What you want to do is drink lots of water so you stay hydrated. Drink that water before, during, and after spending time in the heat. And the CDC says about 1 cup every 20 minutes is what you should do to stay hydrated. Now, here's some signs that you should look out for in case you are out in the heat and you can't take those breaks in the AC very often, and maybe you're not keeping up with that amount of water that you should be. So heat exhaustion is the first step. You'll be thirsty, might be a little dizzy, might have some nausea as well. Your skin will feel cool and clammy to the touch. You'll also be sweating quite a bit. That means you're exhausted from the heat. You really need to remedy the situation and go in the AC, drink some water, just take a break, cool off for a little bit. If you don't, the next step is heat stroke. That'll be a headache. Your skin will be red. It'll be hot. It'll also be dry. And the key indicator here of heat stroke is that you won't be sweating. You'll be hot, but you just aren't going to be sweating. That's because you're very dehydrated. And this is an emergency situation. If you are experiencing heat stroke or you see somebody experiencing heat stroke, you need to call 911 there. That is, again, an emergency situation there. The Climate Central Climate Shift Index, continuing with the topic of the heat. This tells us how much likely or less likely climate change is making these temperatures that we're seeing. And as we can look at the map, there's a lot of those red colors there. This color, red, is that level 3. This one's level 4. That one's level 5. And so what we can see is in the foothills, even up into the high country, we're seeing really that level 4 to 5, which means climate change is making these temperatures at least 4 to 5 times more likely than if we had a climate that was not being influenced by climate change. And also, if we look out in the Bay Area, we can see that climate shift index of 2. And again, that means it's making these temperatures at least 2 times more likely to happen than if we did not have climate change. We can see the index scale here. It goes from 0 to 5. And what we're seeing across the valley is in that 3 to 5 range. So very strong climate change influence driven this heat is, or up to an exceptional event driven by climate change, as what we're seeing in parts of the valley and in the high country as well. So this is a neat way to kind of help visualize and help connect the dots between the climate that really dictates our overall weather and the day-to-day weather that we're seeing. So climate is kind of the long-term trend. Weather is what we're seeing in the here and now. But another way to visualize this is by taking a look at the increasing number of 100-degree days. This is a map or a chart of Sacramento's 100-degree days. The higher it is on the chart, the more 100-degree days there were in that year. It starts in 1877. So in 1877, there were, in 1877 to 1907, that 30-year average, there were 6 100-degree days on average. Some days, some years there were more, some years there were less, but on average, over that 30-year time frame, there were 6 100-degree days every year. But as you look at the 1992 to 2022 30-year average, that number is up to 24 days per year of 100 degrees. And you can see that average line here, that red line, and you can see it definitely starts to trend up, and also the blue line, which again, that blue line is showing you the taller it is, the more 100-degree days there were in that year. And you can see there have been a lot more 100-degree days on average as we work towards modern day. Now, of course, you get those years where you don't have very many. This year so far has been one of those years where we haven't had very many. But we are going through a changing climate. We are going through climate change. And again, it's just helpful to connect the dots between climate change, which can seem abstract in a lot of ways, and especially in a year where we've been cold and wet for the most part, and the weather, which obviously changes every single day. 107 degrees today, that's the forecast. Cooler tomorrow, 101 degrees on Monday. Then we drop into those middle 90s by the middle part of this week for Tuesday and Wednesday. Then, as we talked about, that high pressure builds back in by Thursday and Friday. And so as we work towards next weekend, even though it doesn't right now look like it's going to be as hot, temperatures are still going to climb back past the century mark towards about 103 degrees. And it looks like we're going to stay there for a little while. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you stay cool, stay safe in this heat, and I'll see you next time.